We were about to go into World War II. A lot of changes happening in the world, actually not too dissimilar from what's going on today. And a group of very enlightened individuals decided to create an organization that would focus on Latin America, neighbors to the south. And for the last 82 years, we have been bringing people together to let them know about the Latin American countries, to let them know about the United States and Canada. We always emphasize that we're talking the Western Hemisphere. And we're trying to lower the barriers of intolerance, diffuse knowledge of who we are, the different cultures, that even though there's some major differences, even within Latin America, as you well know, we're all together in this hemisphere, united by topography and geography, which is very, very important and affects all the aspects of life. So welcome again. And we also had this morning some business to take care of, as we do every year. And Arturo Guillen certified that we have enough of a forum to hold the business meeting. We did, and we elected the following people to the board of directors. Romy Diaz, Ruben Reyes, Arturo Guillen, Diana Larisgoitia, Rafael Arismendi, Robert Bright, Brian Brown, Evelyn Clothier, Pelayo Cole, Matthew Comiskey, Richard Giorgioso, Joseph Hare, Charles Humphrey, Benjamin Leavenworth, Lee Roberts, Daniel Shidlow, and Ronald Webb, and myself. So I want you to please give them a round of applause, because these are the people that work so hard and diligently throughout the year, because we are a very distinctive association. We do not have any paid employees. It's all volunteer. We're very busy people, and yet we take time off our schedules to work for Panamericanismo. Thank you very much for coming again, and now it's my pleasure to turn over the proceedings to our illustrious leader, Romy Diaz. Please come up.
Thank you, Ab, and welcome everyone to our 82nd annual meeting and Clothier Award luncheon. I'm Romy Diaz, president of the Pan American Association. And as you've heard, since its founding in 1940, the association has been dedicated to promoting cultural, educational, and economic activities that increase understanding and cooperation among the peoples of the Americas. But we're also very proud to support the development of Latino talent. And we are proud of our growing Hispanic population and its contributions to the welfare of the Delaware Valley. And notwithstanding the pandemic, the association has continued to deliver on its mission, which would not have been possible without the longtime partners' support. And today, it's no exception that we celebrate that generous support. Our presenting sponsor, PICO and Constellation, our bronze sponsors, Blank Rome LLP, Federal Home Loan Bank of Pittsburgh, Fox Rothschild LLP, LIFA International, Roberts Filter Group, and the Philadelphia Orchestra and Kimmel Center, Inc. Thank you very much for the support from our longstanding sponsors and the table sponsors listed in your program booklet. And we continue to be uplifted by the region's Latino civic leadership. And so I'd like to acknowledge the attendance today by members of the diplomatic community, Georgia Athanasopoulos, Consul General of Panama, Carlos Obrador, Consul of Mexico, Krista Bard, the Honorary Consul General of Lithuania, John Medvekas, Honorary Consul of Latvia, and Michael Scullin, Honorary Consul of France. But we also have such a broad and rich talent base among our community organizations. So let me just mention quickly who we have present, and please hold your applause. Adonis Benegas of Concilio, Catherine Bartsch, Center for Latin American and Latinx Studies at Penn, the Reverend Bonnie Camarda, Salvation Army of Greater Philadelphia, Yvette Compian, the Mexican Cultural Center, Linda Conlon, World Trade Center of Greater Philadelphia, Reverend Luis Cortez of Esperanza, Carolina de Giorgio of Congreso, Rose Gray, APM, Hernan Guaracal, Dia Media, Lisolote Ponce Herity, Casa de Venezuela, Joanna Otero Cruz, Women Against Abuse. We expect Sasha Suda from the Art Museum, and we have Carlos Basualdo as well, Chad Workman of Aclamo. So please recognize these wonderful organizations. And I'm also pleased to acknowledge in attendance today, Yuri Pioviza, a Villanova graduate student from Brazil and one of our Pan American scholars when he was a senior at Temple last year. He is joined today, as you heard from Ab, by many of our talented Hispanic students from schools in our region, including Temple, Drexel, Edison High School, and Kensington High School for the creative and performing arts. Will the students please stand and be acknowledged? Thank you so much. And it may not even be 20 years before we'd see you on stage with one of our awards and scholarships. Those of you here today know that our region cannot thrive until all communities are able to thrive. So we thank you for being here and for your support. And now I'd like to call up to the stage Jose Aguirre, PICO Senior Manager, Local Government Affairs, who will introduce our 2022 Clothier Award honoree. Jose.
Buenas tardes, damas y caballeros. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How about those Phillies? And in true fashion of a futbolero here, how about the Philadelphia Union as well? Thank you, everyone. I'm going to lower this because it looks like, Romy, you're a little taller than I am. It's a pleasure to be here today as the presenting sponsor for the Pan American Association's 82nd annual meeting. I'm honored to be here as we celebrate the culture and the contributions to the Latino community and address crucial issues of diversity and equity for the Latino community, as well as important issues that affect us in the Americas. These pressing issues demand our attention now more than ever. In a time of great divide, the need for greater cultural understanding is vital to the progression of our country, which is one of the many reasons why PICO is such a proud sponsor of the Pan American Association. Similar to the core of the association's mission, we at PICO firmly believe in the importance of relationships and understanding across all cultures. I would like to also thank my former colleague, Romy Diaz, for continuing to make positive contributions to the Hispanic community in Philadelphia as the president and CEO of the board of directors for the Pan American Association. Thank you, Romy. I'd also like to acknowledge His Excellency, Nestor Jose Foster Jr., Brazilian Ambassador to the United States. Today, we honor the recipient of the William J. Clothier Award, which is named after the founder of the Pan American Association and is presented to an individual who best exemplifies dedication to public service and commitment to the idea of Pan-Americanismo. Mr. Clothier's widow, Evelyn Barham Clothier, is with us here today to present the award. Yes. This year, it is my great pleasure to announce that the 2022 William J. Clothier Award recipient is Matias Tarnopolsky, a native of Argentina and president and CEO of the Philadelphia Orchestra and Kimmel Center, Inc. Yes. Maestro Tarnopolsky is an incredible representation of the Pan American Association's mission, and PICO is also proud to sponsor the Philadelphia Orchestra under his leadership. In honoring Matias, the association reminds us to be grateful for talented Hispanic leadership at other important arts and cultural institutions in the region, including the Curtis Institute, the Philadelphia Ballet, Philadelphia Museum of Art, and of course, Taller Puertorriqueño. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to invite Matias to the stage to receive an award. Let's give him a round of applause as he makes his way out.
Congratulations. Thank you. The extraordinary Evelyn just said, now you've got something for your peanuts. So that award will take place of honor. Thank you, everybody, for this award for public service. It is a profound honor to be this year's recipient. It is an even greater honor to be placed in such distinguished ranks as those of past William J. Clothier II award honorees, all of whom have made important contributions to the cultural, educational and economic fabric of our community here in Philadelphia, including my dear friend, though I can't see him, Luis Cortes, who I think is hidden behind the camera there. So, heartfelt and special thanks to this extraordinary organization, the Pan American Association of Philadelphia, for having the great generosity to nominate me. To Alberto Lecter, chairman of the board, to my friend Romy Diaz, president and CEO of the Pan American Association of Philadelphia, to Jose and to Pico, with whom we have such a great connection, especially at the vanguard of making sure that we are an ever more just, equitable, and diverse community here in Philadelphia. Deep thanks to Pico and to Jose for introducing me so warmly, and to everybody who made this event possible and has brought together such an illustrious group of Philadelphians, so many of Latinx descent. I want to also acknowledge the extraordinary Clothier family for their work to spread the goodwill and cultural curiosity of the award's namesake, William Clothier. His contributions to Philadelphia and the public good and his story are significant, interesting, and varied. And his name is synonymous with many things here in Philadelphia, including tennis, both as a player and as an official. And he helped bring men's professional tennis to the city. And aside from his success on the tennis court, he was passionate about Latin America, the language, the customs, and above all, the people. That affinity led to his work as a special agent for the FBI and later the CIA in Peru, Cuba, and Chile during World War II. And as a founding member, president, and board member of the Pan American Association, he worked throughout his life to eradicate the barriers that often separate the people of the Western Hemisphere. It is truly an honor to be receiving an award named after him and to have received it from Evelyn. I have been in this incredible, vibrant, and growing community of 500,000 Philadelphia residents who trace their roots to Latin America since 2018. I moved here with my wife, Birgit, who's here today, and our two children, Sofia and Tomas, who deliberately have names that work in English and Spanish and her native tongue, German, without changes of pronunciation and spelling. It's true. We moved here in 2018 when I was named president then, and president and CEO of the Philadelphia Orchestra, and now as a result of our wonderful merger with the Kimmel Center, president and CEO of the Philadelphia Orchestra and Kimmel Center, Inc. I was born in Argentina and moved with my family to London when I was 2 years old. And when Romy, a while ago, came to talk to me about this award, it dawned on me that I learned English at the same time as my parents did, right? As me, it would end up being as a native speaker alongside my Spanish. But them, to this day, and probably much to their annoyance, I still correct their English. Even though they've spent their entire professional lives in English-speaking countries. And I'm very glad of the connection to Canada, where they and the rest of my family live now, having moved from London some 30 years ago. I moved from the UK to the United States in 1999. We moved together, actually. We met in London, relocating first to Chicago, then to New York, then to the Bay Area, before moving to Philadelphia in 2018. My thanks to my parents. They instilled a deep appreciation and connection to our Argentine heritage. And my tether, and is very strong to home, has not been based on place, but rather on culture and on language, the sound of home, the music of home, has been the profoundest link. And it's still, my observation, it's still rarer than I'd like that I spend time during the day speaking in Spanish in Philadelphia. I found I did that more in other cities, and I want to change that. But it is still music to my ears when I hear it spoken and I can interact with people in our Philadelphia community in Spanish. You'll hear this theme that I'm about to talk about, that Jose already raised, Romy already raised, and I know that His Excellency, whom I also acknowledge now, is also going to raise, which is the need for greater global and cultural understanding being more important now than ever before. And I suspect that generations of people on podiums have been saying that, but it's now our mantle to take forward. And the arts in general, and I believe music in particular, provides an important answer Whether you're singing in a choir, playing a musical instrument, artists know that music gives voice to thoughts and ideas that words alone cannot. I'm honored to lead one of our nation's largest and most important cultural institutions and a beacon for our city and community. And our message every day on all of our stages is one of understanding, of inspiration, of joy, connection, but above all, it is one of understanding. That's why I am so passionate about music. I believe that music is a celebration of our cultural connections that transcend language, time, space, boundaries, and borders. It serves as a vehicle to entrance, to move, and uplift. It's a pathway to culture, to broadening our culture, to greater diversity, and to inclusion. Music is a democratizing and unifying force. With that in mind, it's my hope that everyone here one day can sing in a choir. If you don't already, pick up a musical instrument, or certainly encourage the next generation to do so. And it's also here's a pitch, my sincere hope that maybe with the help of this organization, we can take the Great Philadelphia Orchestra back to Latin America and truly celebrate. Thank you. I needed an applause line. I didn't know that one would be it. Okay. But we can take the Great Philadelphia Orchestra back to South America and truly celebrate this city's great Panamericanismo, so beautifully exemplified by these musicians, by this award, and this organization. Thank you again for this award. It is a deep honor to be recognized by this organization that's all about promoting understanding and appreciation for the cultural, education, and economic contributions of Panamericanismo. Muchas gracias a todos y espero verlos a todos en un concierto pronto. Gracias. Very kind.
Well done and well-deserved, Matthias. Let me just suggest that we take a short break in the program, give our servers an opportunity to change the plates, and we'll resume the program in about 10 minutes. But thank you so much, and buen gusto. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you, if you would, to take your seats. We're about ready to proceed with our program. We want you to continue to enjoy your lunch, but we have some important business to accomplish. I know you're all interested in hearing from our next speaker. So let me begin. His Excellency Nestor Forster Jr. is a career diplomat and graduate of the Brazilian Diplomatic Academy. As a diplomat, he has served in Canada, Costa Rica, and the United States, where he has been posted 3 times to the embassy in Washington, as well as consulates in Hartford, Connecticut, and New York City. He began his career as a consular affairs officer and was posted twice to the Office of the President of Brazil, served as Chief of Staff to the Attorney General, and headed the Foreign Ministry's Information Technology Division. Ambassador Forster is a published author, having co-authored the official style guide of the Brazilian federal government, which has been in use for nearly 30 years. He participated in Brazil's first institutionalized presidential transition in 2002, which resulted in the book Transition and Democracy, Institutionalizing the Transfer of Power. In 2006, Ambassador Forster completed his dissertation on development finance at the Diplomatic Academy. Ambassador Forster is married to Maria Teresa Forster and has 2 daughters and 3 grandchildren. You all know that this is an important time in Brazil's national life, with a presidential runoff election this Sunday. And what happens in Brazil, with the largest economy, largest population, and the largest landmass in Latin America, as well as the largest tract of continuous rainforest on the planet, what happens in Brazil matters to the United States, matters to the Western Hemisphere, indeed the world. So it is especially timely and important that we hear from our keynote speaker today. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a big Philly welcome to Brazil's ambassador to the United States, Nestor Forster Jr. We are delighted to receive you. Ambassador Forster, the stage is yours.
Boa tarde, buenas tardes, good afternoon, thank you very much. Mr. Ab Lecter, Chairman of the Board of Directors of the Pan American Association of Philadelphia, Romy Diaz, President and CEO, members of the association, Philadelphia city officials, members of the Diplomatic Corps, ladies and gentlemen. Greetings to all. I am honored to have this opportunity to address the annual luncheon of the Pan American Association of Philadelphia in the historic Union League building, which stands as a monument to the memory of President Abraham Lincoln. I thank Chairman Ab Lecter of the Pan American Association for this invitation, a gesture of goodwill and friendship towards Brazil and its people as we celebrate 200 years as an independent nation. And because this gesture comes from Philadelphia, the cradle of American democracy, it is all the more meaningful to us. Let me congratulate Matthias Staropolsky, President and CEO of the world-renowned Philadelphia Orchestra and recipient of today's Clothier Award. I hope Mr. Staropolsky won't mind if I suggest that he includes pieces from the Brazilian repertoire for one of his orchestra's future seasons of concerts. Actually, we were chatting before the luncheon, and he told me that he did just that about a year ago. But I cannot fail to mention the great connection between the greatest Brazilian composer, Villa-Lobos, and Philadelphia Orchestra. So In that occasion, Villa-Lobos found himself in the company of other prominent figures in the world of music, like Spanish guitarist Andrés Segovia and composer Arthur Cohn, a son of this very city of Philadelphia. The Brazilian emperor, oh, sorry, I missed one here. But this is not the only or even the oldest connection between Brazil and Philadelphia, which indeed occupies a special place in the history of Brazil-US relations. Let's not forget that Emperor Dom Pedro II was the first head of state of a modern nation to visit this country when he arrived right here in Philadelphia in 1876. The Brazilian emperor came to the city to inaugurate the Centennial Exhibition with President Ulysses Grant. In a well-known illustration from the time, the two leaders are depicted among a throng of onlookers staring at the massive Corliss engine that would power machines and equipment at the fair. This historic visit laid the groundwork for a relationship in which the bonds of friendship and cooperation between our countries would be forged and grow ever stronger. With the establishment of the Republic in the late 19th century, Brazil sought to reinforce its ties with America, then a rising power. The Baron of Rio Branco, patron of Brazilian diplomacy, designed a foreign policy that looked favorably on the United States and embraced the cause of Pan-Americanism that this association so zealously opposed. It was in Rio de Janeiro in 1906 that Brazil consolidated its support for Pan-Americanism by hosting the first Pan-American Conference in South America. Two of the conference's leading negotiators were Joaquim Nabuco, Brazil's ambassador in Washington, and Eli Horut, in a first visit to South America by a Secretary of State. This is back in 1906. The meetings were held in the Monroe Palace in Rio, named in honor of the fifth President of the United States. In his inaugural remarks at the conference, Rio Branco presented his vision of the Pan-American ideal, a vision that to this day guides Brazil's relations in the hemisphere and beyond. To Rio Branco, Pan-Americanism was founded on the fundamental tenets of sound political relations, peaceful resolution of conflicts, and harmonious trade rules, tenets on which the peoples of the Americas would find common ground. And Brazil remained true to this spirit of Pan-Americanism, one of unity and solidarity among nations. Yet another conference was hosted in Rio in 1942, when in the wake of the attack on Pearl Harbor, Brazil and the United States convened the nations of the hemisphere for a collective break of relations with the Axis powers. A few months later, Brazil entered the war, dispatching 25,000 troops to Italy to fight alongside their American allies for the principles of liberty and democracy, principles we Brazilians uphold to this day. Ladies and gentlemen, these brief historical references are intended to remind us of the imperative of looking beyond the present moment. After almost 40 years of service as a professional diplomat, I learned that it is always preferable to see things from a broad and objective point of view. With this in mind, I would like to give you a general sense of the current moment in Brazil and recent developments in my country's relations with the United States. This has been a year of robust economic comeback for Brazil following a crisis that affected the entire world. The nation's GDP growth has surpassed expectations every month, and projected growth for the year is at 2.8% according to the IMF, and might still be reviewed upwards. In the midst of worldwide inflation, prices in Brazil are under control, thanks mainly to a drop in fuel prices. The figures for trade show more good news, with a surplus for this year already in an all-time high of approximately $50 billion. In 2021, Brazil was the world's fourth largest destination for foreign direct investment, with the highest rate of job growth among the G20 nations. Brazil's unemployment is now at its lowest since 2015. These indicators, and I could point out to others, are not the products of chance, but of a modernization agenda that the Bolsonaro administration has been carrying forward since the beginning. This agenda is a comprehensive and ambitious one. Without trying to be exhaustive, I can mention the pension and tax system reform with the elimination of several federal taxes, the central bank autonomy, the opening of the natural gas market, and the adoption of a new basic sanitation framework with great social impact, and concessions and privatizations of infrastructure projects that already total $160 billion in new investment. I wish to comment briefly on a particular reform designed to enhance digital government that's still underway. The World Bank ranks Brazil first in the Americas and seventh in the world for public digital access to government services. This has been a quiet revolution that makes life easier for citizens and entrepreneurs and especially benefits low-income Brazilians. A key component of Brazil's modernization drive has been its partnership with the United States, which lends support for our accession to the OECD, a vital step towards locking in economic reforms in our country. President Bolsonaro's efforts towards a stronger relationship with America, a major feature of his foreign policy, have consistently made this clear. Up to now, a great deal has been accomplished in a wide range of areas, including environmental protection, clean energy, strategic minerals, space exploration, and defense. I will be happy to examine each of these achievements in depth later in our discussion. But since I am addressing so many members of the business community here today, I will give you a brief update on current trends in trade and investment, where we have seen many positive outcomes. As the numbers show, Brazil-US trade in goods has reached record levels, totaling $70 billion in 2021, more than recovering what was lost during the pandemic. With trade flows in the first 9 months of this year already surpassing $60 billion, we can expect new highs for 2022 in trade with the US, who was our most important trade partner until 2009, when it lost its position to China. But the United States remains second to none when it comes to foreign direct investment in Brazil, the destination of US FDI to the tune of over $120 billion. Brazil's investment in the American market, in turn, is also significant, having reached this year $40 billion and generating some 100,000 jobs in the United States. Though the private sectors of both countries are the prime movers behind this partnership for prosperity, our governments are also playing an important role by facilitating business. 3 cutting-edge trade protocols came into force in February with new commitments on trade facilitation, regulatory practices, and anti-corruption rules. We tend to focus on tariff agreements, often overlooking the benefits of non-tariff accords, which, as studies demonstrate, also drive bilateral trade exchanges. Another bit of great news is the mutual recognition agreement signed just this last September on authorized economic operators that streamlines customs procedures and cuts red tape on the trade of goods. This agreement is now in full force. I share with you the hope that after the US midterm elections, Congress will approve the renewal of the so-called generalized system of preferences, whereby developing countries enjoy duty-free treatment for certain exports, leveling the playing field with exports from other countries which have preferential trade agreements with the United States. As I have been pointing out to members of Congress and the White House officials, this arrangement is beneficial to the United States to the extent that it diversifies this country's trade partners and provides more efficient inputs and goods to American industry and consumers. Now I am pleased to say that the Keystone State figures prominently whenever we talk about economic relations between Brazil and the United States. Indeed, Brazil-Pennsylvania trade totaled $2 billion last year, surpassing pre-pandemic levels. Some noteworthy Pennsylvania companies operate in Brazil, and several Brazilian companies, in turn, have long been active in this state, especially in industries such as petrochemicals, food production, and advanced materials. And I'm glad to acknowledge the presence of representatives of these companies here with us today. In July, I met with Governor Tom Wolf in Harrisburg to consider prospects for an even more dynamic Brazil-Pennsylvania relationship. This proved itself an opportune moment to bring up an issue that, once resolved, will surely benefit Brazil-Pennsylvania trade and create jobs in this state. I'm referring to what the previous federal administration did by imposing a hard quota on the exports of Brazilian steel products under the so-called Section 232. Brazilian steel exports to America comprise mainly semi-finished products, and I was glad to be talking to someone involved in the logistics of the transportation of these steel slabs here in Philadelphia and in Pennsylvania. And we know that these products, because they are semi-finished, they are used as inputs by the U.S. automotive and construction industries. Brazilian steel does not threaten jobs in America. On the contrary, it renders U.S. industry more competitive, thereby creating opportunities for American workers. What's more, Brazilian steel mills are powered by metallurgical coal imported from the United States, including from the state of Pennsylvania. In 2021 alone, we bought more than $100 million worth of Pennsylvania met coal. In light of these considerations, I invite the Pennsylvania private sector to join forces with us to call for an end to Section 232 restrictions to the benefit of both our economies. Ladies and gentlemen, let me now share a few thoughts on Brazil's role in a world facing the three crucial challenges of energy sustainability, food security, and environmental protection. Challenges that will be overcome, we hope, with a substantial contribution from Brazil. Energy transition is now a fashionable topic, but it has been a reality in Brazil for at least 50 years. After decades of research and investment, it is no accident that my country's energy mix is today the cleanest among G20 countries. About half of all the energy consumed in Brazil and 85% of our electricity comes from renewable sources. We are now envisaging the development of offshore wind farms alongside our 6,000-mile coast, whose potential for offshore wind power generation is of 1.2 thousand gigawatts, enough to provide 7 times the current Brazilian electricity demand. 7 times. This abundant and expensive energy can be used for mass production and export of green hydrogen. Brazil's leading position in renewable energy also makes it an ideal destination for supply chain relocation, as it allows for low carbon manufacturing. When it comes to food, Brazil is a breadbasket, helping feed 1 billion people around the world. This year's grain harvest is expected to be Brazil's largest ever, at 270 million tons of grains. Projections for next year estimate a harvest in excess of 300 million. Still, we use less than 8% of our territory for agriculture. Science is the secret to Brazil's agricultural success, achieved without harming our forests. I cannot fail to mention Alison Paulinelli, the Brazilian scientist, government official, and Nobel Peace Prize candidate, who, as far back as in the 1970s, helped spearhead a veritable revolution in tropical agriculture, using science and sustainable practices. Brazil's environmental credentials attest to my country's commitment to protecting its fauna and flora. Brazil is home to the world's largest biodiversity and has kept over 80% of the Amazon rainforest intact. The Brazilian government is stepping up to the challenge of fighting environmental crimes in the Amazon biome and beyond. The Amazon biome, the Brazilian Amazon, is an area 35 times, let me stress that, 35 times the size of the state of Pennsylvania. Our forest legislation is the strictest in the world, and the government has established, in this year alone, 6 strategically located rapid response air bases in the Amazon to fight illegal deforestation, fires, and mining. You may have heard Brazil referred to as the land of the future. This is true in a sense, as we are a country of so many possibilities and such great promise. But the message I want to leave with you today is that Brazil is already an energy, agriculture, and environmental powerhouse. History shows us how instability can ensue as nations attain a certain degree of geopolitical weight. But the Brazilian experience contradicts this tendency. Brazil has been a trustworthy partner and a force for good, ready to help address the world's most pressing problems. Dear friends of the Pan American Association, as Brazil heads towards the runoff of its presidential elections this Sunday, Brazilians will show once again their unwavering commitment to democracy. At a conference in 1950 in my hometown of Porto Alegre in southern Brazil, the great statesman Oswaldo Aranha expressed what democracy means for the Brazilian people in the following words: a democracia para nós é essencial à nossa forma de ser. Não é uma concepção política em si mesmo, mas a maneira mais humana e digna de viver e de conviver em nosso país. I'll translate. Quote, democracy is for us essential to our way of being. It is not in itself a political concept, but the most humane and dignified way of living and sharing our lives with others in our country. With these words in mind, I want to affirm my well-grounded optimism for Brazil's future and certainty of its continued contribution to peace and prosperity in our region and throughout the world. Thank you very much. Go Phillies!
We particularly appreciated that last comment, Ambassador. Ambassador Forster has indicated he would welcome a couple of questions from the audience. So is there a question for Ambassador Forster? And while we're waiting, let me just say that I appreciated your comments in connection with protecting Amazonian biosphere. But you know, the latest UN report indicates that there's a great amount of backsliding in connection with climate change, commitments made by nations across the planet. We know that it's difficult to balance the economics and the reality of everyday life with the desire to protect future generations as those difficult decisions are being made today. I wonder if you might share a little bit about how Brazil has balanced the economics and protection of the environment as it's continued to move forward in its advancements.
Thank you very much, Romy. It's a question that's, I think, in many people's minds, and affords me the opportunity to elaborate a bit on what I said. The first thing I like to say when asked about the Amazon and about environmental protection in Brazil, environmental policy, and so on, is that we need to separate what is political propaganda from facts. So I bring you facts. I'm not a partisan politician. I'm a career diplomat. I deal with policy, with environmental policy. The politics we can talk about in another environment. So when we look at the facts, we see that we do have challenges. For instance, there is an increase in illegal activity in deforestation in the Amazon in the past 3 years. If you read, some of the headlines, you think it's the end of the world, at least the end of the Amazon. That's not true. 84% of the Amazon is still intact. But more than that, the federal government is not sitting idly by and looking people commit these crimes. We are fighting them very hard. Last year, the budget to fight environmental crimes in Brazil was doubled, actually more than doubled. We have created an integrated approach between federal police officers and what we call environmental guardians of the biome that work together in the Amazon to fight these crimes. Last year, I mentioned that in my speech, we created six integrated centers, bringing together people from the Ministry of the Environment, from the Brazilian Institute for the Environment, and from the Ministry of Justice, Police, etc., to work together using technology, using drones, using radars, using helicopters, to get to the bad guys before they can do the damage they are intent on doing. And that's illegal deforestation, illegal mining, etc. The big challenge here, if you want to take a hard look from the policy point of view, the challenge we have in the Amazon is to face what we call the Amazon paradox. What is that? The Amazonian region, which is more than half of Brazil, of our territory, it's the wealthiest region in Brazil in terms of natural resources. Nobody disputes that. Still, the human development is the lowest in the country. That's not a comfortable situation. So what we've been saying, and this administration of President Bolsonaro has been blamed by so many things he didn't do, has been insisting that we need to think about the 25 million Brazilians who live there. And the answer to that challenge, which is most of all a social challenge, is not to cut the forest, of course not. The answer was given back in 1992 when we convened in Rio at the first UN conference on the environment and development. Let's not forget the second part. So what's the answer? The answer is to work on both sides, create opportunity and prosperity for these 25 million Brazilians who live there, and protect the environment. It's not either or. So this is the challenge. We see we need to do more in areas such as the bioeconomy, the great opportunities we have for ecotourism, for pharmaceuticals and cosmetics, for the fishing industry, for other industries, the fruit industry in the Amazon, and so on. There are many things going on right now over there. Perhaps we could scale them up with this double goal of improving the lives of the Brazilians, 25 million of them who live there, and protecting the environment at the same time. I hope I addressed your question.
Yes, thank you. Lynn?
Thank you very much. So our energy mix, as I referred to, the nuclear component is it doesn't get to, I think, 3% of what we do. There is a project, and we have great cooperation with the United States in this regard, with the Department of Energy. We have created back in March 2019, when President Bolsonaro first visited the U.S., we created what's called the U.S.-Brazil Energy Forum to address the questions of renewable sustainability, etc., and nuclear cooperation. One of the things we can do is bring this new technology of the so-called small modular nuclear reactors, SMRs, to the Amazon, to provide the people who live there with the energy they need without harming the environment. There was a meeting between the president and indigenous peoples' leaderships this past February. It's in the internet if you want to double check what I'm saying. There's a video on YouTube. And the president asked the leaders, several leaders, a very formal meeting with indigenous peoples. And the president asked, what can my administration do to help you? What can we do more? Where are we failing, and so on? And the leaders looked at each other, and the guy who was the head supposed to answer for it said, fast internet was his reply. Okay? So, it's not a glamorous answer, perhaps not in many anthropologists' mind, but they want to participate in the benefits of the technology. So the small modular reactor, this nuclear reactor, will go a long way in providing the energy they need for that. Just to put this in context, Brazil's main source of renewable is hydropower. And we began to build this big hydro dams in Brazil in the 1970s. That's why I said that we started before it was fashionable. But on top of that, the number 2 source of energy in Brazil today is wind, about 10 to 12%, growing by leaps and bounds. Number 3, just recently overcame natural gas, is solar energy, of which Brazil has an untapped potential, on top of the offshore wind that I mentioned. So, broadening your question to the whole question of energy policy, Brazil is set to play a great role in energy transition around the world, including helping countries which are energy strapped and depend on unreliable sources for their energy needs around the world. I mentioned green hydrogen being one of the good things we can do about that.
I think I saw a hand over here, Pedro, and we'll have time for one more question after this, Pedro.
Well, thank you for the presentation. Maybe you, history in your time in Venezuela, do you believe there will be a peaceful transfer of power after the elections, regardless of the outcome? Thank you very much for that question. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. A myth has been fabricated that this would not happen. It becomes if you wish, a kind of people expect this to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. These people are wrong. The vast majority of Brazilians support our democratic institutions. We like to say we are a very vibrant democracy, if you see the give and take and so on. Of course, the polarization we see in Brazilian politics, and, Brazil is not alone in that regard, is something that, we need to improve upon. Bringing what the award winner, Maestro Michael Topolsky mentioned here, the need for more dialogue, the need to bridge. We really need that, in Brazil and elsewhere. Let me just, take your question to just share one thought with you. One of the things that, I'm a career diplomat, as you've heard a couple of times tonight, this afternoon. One of the things that really brings us new challenges is this tremendous influence of the domestic politics on foreign policy. Of course, in a democratic society, foreign policy is one item in the agenda, in the plan for an administration, the program of a government democratically elected, of course, so the connection is there. But when we get to a degree or partisan politics or ideologies, gets above a certain temperature, that's not helpful. And that's precluding us from do what diplomats must always do, which is to sit down and dialogue, no matter with whom. And, there's a parallel to be done here with artists and musicians who play, sometimes in unsavory countries and unsavory conditions. But, they are opening a channel of communication using the arts, using music, using something that speaks to our humanity above the partisan politics that divide us so much.
Thank you, Ambassador. We are so delighted and pleased that you have taken time out of your busy schedule to be here. So we'd like to present you with a small gift and token of our appreciation. Ab?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, one more round of applause for our keynote speaker, Ambassador Nestor Forster Jr. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you agree that this has been a wonderful 82nd anniversary event. The association has had a long reputation for not only advancing knowledge, understanding, and engagement among the peoples of the Americas, but also being a beacon of hope in Philadelphia and beyond, to quote Ambassador Thomas Shannon Jr. It's in that spirit and mindful of the season and the important work that they do, we hope you will consider supporting the work of the many wonderful community organizations who were with us today. And lastly, if I've learned anything over the last 2.5 years, it's to count your blessings. And so I'm thankful for so many of the folks who have made our scholarship program successful, and want to give a shout out to our education committee for their work in identifying and supporting the development of Latinx talent in the Delaware Valley. With respect to today's online program, it just wouldn't have happened without the leadership of our Vice President, Ruben Reyes. And in addition to the association's officers and board members, always willing to lend a helping hand, I especially want to thank our chairman, Ab Lecter, and our steering committee chair, Matt Comiskey, for today's program. In closing, our all-volunteer organizations depends on you, our members, our attendees, and sponsors to support and guide our efforts to provide the programming you have come to expect and deserve. So until our scholarship luncheon, next spring. Thank you for being with us today to share in the spirit of Panamericanismo. I have to ask one more time, we've had a tremendous honoree with our Clothier Award today. Please help thank our Matthias Tarnopolsky for his leadership. And our wonderful keynote speaker with all the gratitude for your appearance today and well wishes for the outcome of your national election this Sunday. Ambassador Forrester. We're humbled and honored to have the delightful opportunity to say that we're all Americans. And with that, go Phillies! And the bag.